Keeping up with science these days. It feels like trying to drink from a fire hose.
Oh, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
just relentless. New discoveries popping up constantly.
And you want to know what's important, what really matters, without just drowning in all the information.
Yeah. How do you filter out the noise? That's the trick. It's tough when you've got everything else going on.
Exactly. So, that's what we're here for. Welcome to the deep dive. We basically do the heavy lifting for you. We take a look at all this new research.
The stuff generating real buzz.
Right, and we pull out the key things you need to know.
And today we're focusing on, well, the big scientific trends that experts think are really going to shape 2025. We're looking at insights from places like CAS, UC Berkeley, Oak Ridge National Lab, Polaris QB.
So people really in the trenches doing the work.
Definitely. And they've flagged 8 areas with potentially huge impact.
And we're not just talking lab experiments here, are we? This stuff could actually change things in, like, healthcare, the environment, maybe even business.
That's the idea. So our mission today, let's unpack these 8 trends, figure out why they're a big deal, connect them to, the real world, give you that shortcut to understanding.
Okay, let's do it. Where should we start? How about CRISPR? It feels like that's really hitting its stride now.
Oh, absolutely. CRISPR, yeah. It's moving beyond just being a cool lab tool. It's seriously entering the drug discovery pipeline now.
Right, like with that Casgevy approval from the FDA, that felt like a big moment.
Huge moment. First CRISPR-based therapy greenlit. But honestly, the speed of development since then is what's truly staggering.
Okay, so it's evolved beyond that first CRISPR tech we heard about.
Massively. We're seeing huge leaps in things like base editing. Think of the genome like a book. Base editing lets you change one single letter without cutting the page. Super precise.
Wow.
Then there's prime editing, which is like an even fancier word processor. It can change letters and insert and delete small bits. And also CRISPR-based epigenetic modulation. This is more like installing a dimmer switch for genes, controlling how active they are without actually changing the DNA sequence itself.
That sounds incredibly sophisticated. So how is this, actually playing out? What could it mean for us?
Well, take cancer treatment. They're using CRISPR to basically turbocharge CAR therapies.
Okay, how?
They can edit those CAR D immune cells to make them better cancer hunters. Maybe knock out genes that inhibit their attack or even add safety switches to control the therapy better.
So potentially more effective and safer treatments.
That's the goal, yeah.
Yeah.
Making them more potent, but maybe less toxic.
That's massive for cancer patients. And it's not just improving old therapies.
Not at all. CRISPR is also great for finding totally new drug targets, like for Protax, another type of drug. By tweaking genes in cancer cells, scientists can uncover hidden weaknesses.
So CRISPR acts like a scout, finding the weak points?
Exactly. Identifying vulnerabilities for other drugs to hit.
It's like a whole new lens on disease, right down at the genetic level.
Precisely. And then, of course, there's using CRISPR directly to fix faulty genes or shut down harmful ones. Huge potential for, monogenic diseases, those caused by one bad gene.
Right.
And maybe even tackling viruses by disabling their genetic code directly. Moving towards actual cures, not just managing symptoms.
It really feels like medicine is on the verge of something big.
It does. And what's really cool, the sources point this out, is how CRISPR works with other tech like CART and Protax. They're not in silos. They complement each other. It's creating this synergy that could let us tackle diseases in ways we just couldn't before.
Fascinating stuff. Okay, let's switch gears. Something maybe a bit more tangible day to day, for now anyway. Batteries. Solid-state batteries are getting a lot of hype, particularly for EVs.
Definitely. Lithium-ion is everywhere now, right? Phones, laptops, cars. But they have limits, especially for getting EVs truly mainstream. Solid-state looks like the next big step to tackle those issues.
Okay, for the non-experts like me, what's the key difference? Why are solid-state potentially better?
The main thing is the electrolyte, the stuff lithium ions move through. In current batteries, it's usually a liquid or gel, which, well, can be flammable.
Right, the fire risk thing.
Exactly. Solid state uses a solid electrolyte. Sounds simple, but it changes a lot. First, much safer, no flammable liquid. Second, they tend to last longer, more charge cycles.
Okay.
They're also more compact, so you can pack more energy into the same space, meaning higher energy density. That translates to longer range for EVs.
Longer range, safer. What else?
Faster charging, potentially. And they often work better in the cold, which is a real headache for some EV owners now. Range anxiety, charge time, solid state could really ease those worries.
Those sound like game-changing advantages for EVs. But I feel like I've heard there are still some pretty big hurdles. Cost, manufacturing.
Oh, for sure. That's the catch. Some experts are still cautious, getting the cost down for mass production, making sure they perform reliably in the real world, proving they last. It's not easy.
Yeah, scaling up from the lab to millions of cars is always the hard part. But the sources mention some serious industry players making big moves, don't they?
They do. Despite the hurdles, there's huge investment. Honda just showed off a pilot production line for solid state, saying they could be 50% smaller than current ones.
Wow, half the size.
SAA in China is aiming for mass production of their next-gen solid-state batteries by 2026. And Nissan's targeting an EV with solid state by 2028. These aren't like far-off dreams anymore. These timelines are getting close.
Okay, those are aggressive. It really does feel like maybe that tipping point is getting closer than we thought.
Seems like it could be. And remember, better batteries aren't just for cars. Think grid storage, better electronics. Loads of industries are watching this space very closely.
Right. Okay, trend number 3, AI. Still huge, obviously, but it sounds like the conversation is shifting a bit. Less about the AI itself, more about the data.
Exactly. AI is everywhere. Its influence is only growing. But yeah, the focus now, especially for tricky scientific applications, is really homing in on the data you feed these models. Its quality, its relevance.
Garbage in, garbage out, basically.
Pretty much. You can have the smartest algorithm, but if the data is junk or just not right for the job, your results don't be reliable. It's fundamental.
And the sources mention that things like ChatGPT, while amazing with language, kind of struggle with science data, like chemical structures.
That's a key point. LLMs are great with text, but understanding complex scientific diagrams, tables, chemical formulas, that's a different ballgame. Needs different handling, much higher accuracy.
So it's not just more data, it's the right kind of high-quality data for this specific problem.
Precisely. And everyone knows good data is important, but finding or creating that perfect fit-for-purpose data, that's the real challenge. It's often just not lying around ready to use.
Okay, so what are people actually doing about this? How do you improve data quality for AI in science?
There are a few strategies. One is building these super curated custom data sets.
Yeah.
Like MIT and Toyota are creating one specifically for self-driving cars, capturing all the weird edge cases of driving.
Tailor-made data. Makes sense.
Another idea is using compound AI systems. These pull from lots of different data sources to try and cross-check things, reduce errors, what people sometimes call AI hallucinations.
Right, when the AI just makes stuff up.
Yeah, exactly. Then there's the mixture of experts idea, using lots of smaller specialized AI models trained on specific things instead of one giant model trying to do everything.
Interesting. Divide and conquer.
Kinda. And finally, there's synthetic data, basically using AI itself to generate artificial data when real-world data is hard to get or maybe has privacy issues.
So AI is helping create training data for other AI.
In a way, yeah. Bootstrapping itself, like you said earlier. And the payoff is real. Better data is already leading to better results in things like finding new uses for existing drugs or designing drugs computationally. It makes the whole process more efficient and reliable.
Okay, from digital data to actual physical stuff. Trend 4, material science. It sounds like new materials are becoming key players in fighting climate change.
Absolutely. Meeting those Paris Agreement goals for cutting emissions, it needs innovation everywhere. And material science is stepping up, offering new tools to tackle some really fundamental climate challenges.
So what kind of materials are we talking about? The source mentioned MOFs, metal organic frameworks, and COFs. Can you break this down?
Sure. Let's start with MOFs. Metal organic frameworks. Think of them like molecular scaffolding. They're crystalline materials made of metal ions linked by organic molecules. They form these incredibly porous 3D structures.
Okay, porous like sponges.
Exactly, but on a molecular scale and highly ordered. The cool thing is scientists can design them very precisely, control the pore size, the surface area, even how flexible they are. This makes them super versatile for things like storing gas, separating different molecules, or speeding up chemical reactions.
Right, like that customizable sponge idea. And the Solik mentioned BASF using them for carbon capture.
Yeah, that's a big one. Their super high surface area and selectivity make MOFs really good at grabbing CO2 out of industrial emissions, a critical technology we need. And they're even being used in coatings for more energy-efficient air conditioning, potentially cutting energy use by up to 40%.
40%? Wow. Okay, so what about COFs, covalent organic frameworks? How are they different?
COFs are also porous, but they're made entirely of light organic elements, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, held together by strong covalent bonds. no metals.
Okay, advantages.
Generally, they're more stable thermally and chemically than MOFs. They can handle tougher conditions. Some research suggests they could even work continuously to, like, scrub pollutants from the air.
Atmospheric cleansing. That sounds ambitious.
It is. And they're also showing promise for water pollution, grabbing nasty stuff like those forever chemicals, PFAS, out of water supplies.
So MOFs for gas capture, COFs maybe more for stability and tackling other pollutants. It sounds like a growing toolkit for sustainability.
That's the picture, yeah. We're going to see a lot more materials. Science innovation aimed at sustainability, both creating materials with less environmental impact and materials that enable things like better renewable energy tech.
Cool. Okay, Trend 5 brings us back to drug discovery, but from a different angle. Not editing genes, but editing molecules. Molecular editing. What's that about?
Right. So traditionally, making a new drug molecule is like building with Legos, right? You follow a specific set of steps, adding pieces one by one. Molecular editing is different. It's more like molecular surgery.
Surgery.
Yeah, instead of building from scratch, you take an existing complex molecule and you make very precise changes inside it, inserting an atom here, deleting one there, swapping a group right in the core structure.
Ah, so you're modifying something that already exists with high precision.
Exactly. And the payoff can be huge.
Yeah.
It's often way more efficient. Fewer steps mean less time, lower cost.
And probably greener too, right? Less waste.
Often, yeah. Fewer reaction steps can mean less solvent use, less energy. Big wins for sustainability in pharma.
Okay, efficiency, cost, environment. But the source also hinted this could tackle an innovation crisis in pharma.
Yeah, there's been this nagging feeling that finding truly new types of drugs has slowed down. Molecular editing basically gives chemists a whole new set of tools, opens up new ways to make molecules they couldn't easily make before.
So it expands the possibilities.
Massively. It multiplies the potential pathways to new structures. It's like giving medicinal chemists a much bigger chemical toolbox to play with.
Okay, I can see how that would boost innovation.
And think about combining this with AI. The AI we talked about earlier that helps predict best chemical reactions. You put those together, molecular editing and AI synthesis prediction. The potential for a huge jump in chemical innovation in the next decade is definitely there.
Right, another synergy. Okay, Trend 6, waste management. An age-old problem, but sounds like the approaches are getting pretty futuristic, moving towards a circular economy.
Definitely. That UN report was stark, wasn't it? Waste costs doubling by 2050 if we don't change course. So innovation here isn't just nice to have, it's essential, economically and environmentally. The goal is circularity, keep materials in use, cut waste, rely less on new resources.
So what are some of these new innovative approaches?
Well, battery recycling is a huge one. Tying back to our earlier chat, we need better ways to get valuable metals, lithium, cobalt, nickel back from old batteries. Beyond the old methods, there's stuff like bioleaching.
Using microbes?
Yeah, microbes to extract metals, also direct recycling, trying to reuse components more directly, and new chemical processes like electrohydrometallurgy. It's all about recovering those valuable, often scarce materials and stopping them polluting landfills.
Super important, especially with EV growth. What else?
Biomass conversion is another big area. Things like hydrothermal carbonization. It takes wet waste food scraps, sewage sludge, farm waste, and uses heat and pressure to turn it into useful stuff.
Like
Hydrochar, which can be burned for energy or used to improve soil, and biochar, which is great for soil health and locking away carbon, basically turning waste into resources.
value from waste. Okay. And what about that plastic-eating bacteria thing? Is that real?
It is. Sounds like sci-fi, but scientists found bacteria, ID nullisacensis is one, that evolved enzymes, natural catalysts that can actually break down PET plastic, the stuff in drink bottles,
Break it down into
its original chemical building blocks, which means you could potentially use those blocks to make new PET plastic, true recycling at the molecular level, if they can scale it up. Huge potential.
Wow. So these aren't just about cleaning up. They could actually be profitable, right? Recovering valuable stuff from waste.
That's a key driver. Creating financial incentives by turning waste streams into resource streams. Definitely an area to watch for technologies that boost sustainability and the bottom line.
Okay. Penultimate trend. Number 7, quantum computing. Feels like it's been just around the corner forever. Is it finally getting, well, practical?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the answer seems to be maybe starting to be. Cautiously, yes. It's significant that the UN declared 2025 the International Year of Quantum Science and Tech.
Right. So not quite mainstream yet, but moving beyond pure theory.
Exactly. It's making real, tangible progress in R&D. like that big news from the Cleveland Clinic and IBM.
Oh yeah, what was that again?
They installed the world's first quantum computer dedicated specifically to healthcare research. That's a big statement.
Okay, what are they hoping to do with it?
Tackle problems that are just too complex for today's best supercomputers, especially in drug discovery, simulating how molecules behave really accurately, modeling how proteins fold. These are fundamental problems in biology that quantum computers might just crack open.
Potentially revolutionizing drug development.
That's the dream.
Mm.
But it's not just medicine. The source mentions agriculture too, optimizing complex things like fertilizer calculations, maybe improving crop yield sustainably.
Huh. Agriculture. Didn't see that coming.
And weather forecasting. Quantum could potentially spot patterns in massive data sets much faster or evaluate climate models more quickly.
Okay, so the potential applications are really broad, and things seem to be speeding up. New chips, commercial plans.
Yeah, Google's got its Willow chip. Microsoft and Atom Computing are both talking about having commercially available quantum machines in 2025. Now, commercially available might still mean for very specialized research use.
But it's progress,
Right.
real hardware becoming available.
Exactly. Still big challenges in scaling up,
Mm.
making them easier to use, error correction, but the momentum is building. It's not taking over tomorrow, but it's definitely emerging as a key tool in some critical fields.
All right, last one. Trend 8. This sounds complex. Omniomics. The next single-cell revolution. What are we talking about here?
Right. So first, single-cell analysis itself has exploded, yeah. Huge investment, big impact already in things like spotting diseases early, prenatal tests. The market's massive and growing fast.
Okay, looking at individual cells.
Yeah.
Got it. So what's omniomics?
Well, the next step beyond just looking at one thing in a single cell, like its DNA, is multi-omics. That means looking at multiple things in the same single cell all at once.
Multiple things. Like what?
Like analyzing its DNA, genomics, and all the RNA it's making, transcriptomics, and all its proteins, proteomics, maybe its metabolites too, all from that one cell. It gives you a much richer, more dynamic picture of what that cell is actually doing.
Ah, okay. So instead of just one snapshot, you get several layers of information from the same cell. How's that useful?
Super useful. In drug development, it helps understand the really complex biology behind a disease at that single cell level. Helps design better therapies, better vaccines.
Makes sense.
In cancer, researchers are using it to build these detailed cellular family trees, tracking how genetic mutations and epigenetic changes happen together in individual cells as cancer develops. Or take glioblastoma, that aggressive brain cancer. Multiomics helps understand why all the cells in a tumor aren't the same, that heterogeneity, which is key for developing personalized treatments that actually work against all the different cell types.
Okay, so multiomics is combining different analyses on single cells. What takes it to omniomics?
Omniomics is kind of the ultimate goal, the big vision. It's the aspiration to integrate all the possible omics data, genomics, transcriptomics, proteomics, metabolomics, epigenomics, everything into one unified dynamic view of biology at the cellular level.
All of it together.
That's the idea. To see how all these different molecular layers interact and change over time within individual cells, to understand the really complex biological dances happening.
Okay, that sounds incredibly powerful.
It really is. The potential for accelerating drug innovation, for developing truly targeted therapies, for really pushing precision medicine forward. It's profound, getting that complete picture of cells and health and disease.
Seeing the whole orchestra, not just one instrument.
That's a great way to put it.
Wow. Well, that was quite a tour through the scientific frontier. We covered a lot of ground.
We really did. 8 trends that could make some serious waves in 2025 and beyond.
Just to quickly run through them again, CRISPR getting real in therapies.
Solid-state batteries hitting critical milestones.
The massive importance of data quality for AI success.
New materials from science tackling climate change.
Molecular editing shaking up how we make medicines.
Innovative waste management driving that circular economy.
Quantum computing starting to deliver on its promise.
And omniomics giving us that incredibly deep view of ourselves.
It's amazing, isn't it? So many different fields, all pushing boundaries, all looking for solutions to really big problems.
Absolutely. Different sciences, but that common thread of innovation, trying to improve things, our health, our planet, our future.
So maybe something for our listeners to chew on. Which of these areas grabs you the most? Which one do you think could have the biggest ripple effect, maybe even in your own life or work?
Yeah, definitely food for thought. The story's still unfolding.
Keep asking questions, stay curious. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.